Hey there, Chris here from IELTS Advantage, and a very ambitious title for this video, the solution to all your IELTS problems. This is not clickbait. I'm not going to try and sell you anything. What I'm going to do is show you four concepts. Four concepts that if you understand these four concepts, you're going to be able to solve any IELTS problem that you have. So a lot of you have been sending me email after email after email. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And what I decided to do was go and have a look at all of our success stories. So if you go to our main website, IELTSadvantage.com, you'll find that we have more video success stories than any other course, either online or offline in the world. What I decided to do was to go through all of these videos once they come up here and try and see if there were any commonalities, were there any common themes, and I identified these four things. And for many of these students, and every single one of these students got a 7 or above in all four of the skills, for many of these students, they didn't understand these things, and it wasn't until they got these concepts that they were able to actually go on and get the scores that they need. So what are these four things? Well, let's jump into it. So what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you're driving a car. This might sound a little bit strange, but believe me, it applies to all of these things. And we're going to use this concept to take us through all of these four concepts that we're going to talk about today. So you are in London and you need to drive to Manchester, a few hours away in England. How are you going to do that? What problems might come up? How are you going to solve those problems? So the first thing that we need to talk about, the first concept, is simply called focus. Well, what do I mean by focus? Well, if you're driving from London to Manchester, it would be a very good idea to simply drive from London to Manchester. And it would be absolutely crazy if instead of doing that, we decided to go to Cambridge first, and then Brighton, and then Southampton, and then Bristol, and then Oxford. Imagine you really need to get to Manchester. Like there's a football match on in Manchester. Manchester United are playing Manchester City and you really need to get there. And I'm driving the car and I say, no, let's go to Cambridge first. Let's go to Brighton. You go, what are you talking about? That is absolutely crazy. But that is what most of you are doing with your IELTS preparation. Instead of going to exactly where you need to go, you're going all over the place because of a lack of focus. What does this mean in terms of the IELTS test? Well, I had a student recently called Trang from Vietnam, and she had 8.5 in reading, 9 in listening, writing was 7, and her speaking was 6.5. So where do you think that her focus should be? Should her focus be on any of these three areas? No, she needed a 7 or above in all areas, so where should she focus? Speaking. But what was she doing? She was going to several courses in her home city of Ho Chi Minh City, and 3/4 or more of the course was dedicated to reading, listening, and writing. I was like, why did you do that? She's like, well, that's what my mother told me to do. My mother told me to go to the best IELTS school. I'm not going to say which one it is in Ho Chi Minh City. And they mostly taught me about reading, listening, and writing. I was like, that's crazy. You only need to focus on your speaking. Then that didn't work. She got a one-on-one tutor. So she went online, found a one-on-one tutor, very expensive, but at least she was getting that one-on-one interaction. And she said, I need help with my speaking. And what he did was he spent most of his time talking about fluency and coherence, grammar, vocabulary, but spent very little time thinking about pronunciation. And as soon as I spoke to Trang, I focused on her main problem. Her only issue with speaking, and speaking is her main obstacle, was pronunciation. And within pronunciation, she didn't need to think about intonation or stress or connected speech. She only needed to focus on one thing, which was the individual sounds of English. And she didn't have a problem with every single sound of English. She only had a problem with 3 common sounds. So what did we do with Trang? We focused just on that. We didn't talk about reading or listening or writing, nothing to do with that. We didn't think about fluency or grammar or vocabulary. That was absolutely fine. You cannot get very, very high marks in reading and listening and writing and have poor vocabulary and grammar. Her vocabulary and grammar was excellent. Her fluency was no problem whatsoever with that. It was only these 3 individual sounds. So you might think that you are doing the right thing, but this is 99% of students. 99% of students are doing this. They're going 1 inch in every single different direction. And I'm not only talking about doing things that they're already good at, they're worrying about things like, should I go to IDP or the British Council, or should I use a pen or a pencil, or what clothes should I wear in the speaking test, or how should I greet the examiner? None of these actually matter. Just focus on one thing that actually does matter. It's not working now. There we go. If you focus on one thing that really, really does matter, you're going to see huge progress. And you can apply this to basically anything in life. Like, go to a gym and you'll get a load of people thinking about which trainer should I wear and which machine should I use and all of these different things. Like, just focus on your diet and lifting weights if that's what you want to do, and you're going to make huge progress. And you could apply this to any area of life. So the first thing is focus. Focus on what matters. Where your focus goes, that's where your time and your energy go. The 2 most important resources you have as an individual are time and energy. If you're spending your time and energy on things that do not matter, that means you're spending your time and energy on things, you're not spending enough time on things that actually do matter. Okay, so the second thing is diagnosis. So I want you to imagine again, we're in the car in London and we've decided we're going to focus on just going to Manchester. So I know the route, everything's great, and I pull out of the driveway and the car just stops. Nothing. We have no idea what's wrong with it. So if your car breaks down, what do you do? So engines are not simple things. Mechanics spend years, a lifetime, learning about engines and perfecting their craft. And most of the time, or nearly every time, if your car breaks down, you take it to an expert. You take it to a mechanic and they fix it for you. But imagine we're sitting on the road, you really need to get to Manchester really quickly, and I say, how about I go to the local bookshop and find a book on engines and try and fix this myself? You'd be like, what are you talking about? That's what a lot of people do for the IELTS test. They go to the bookshop, they get a bunch of books on IELTS, they read them, they go and do the test, and they fail. Or imagine I said, let me just get my phone and I'm going to look up some YouTube videos. Oh, this mechanic, he's a really good looking mechanic and his videos look amazing. Why don't we do that? Like, you would go crazy. You'd be like, what are you talking about? How many of you use YouTube and Facebook and blogs and forums to improve your writing, your speaking, your listening, your reading? It's crazy. Why do you do it for IELTS? Friend, imagine saying, oh, my friend got really good scores on the IELTS test, or my friend got a mechanic last week to fix his car. Why don't I just ask him? Why would you do that? That would be crazy. Or someone who recently got their car fixed. There's a lot of IELTS schools that are run by people who got a high IELTS score, that know nothing about teaching. In fact, they don't know that much about the IELTS test. Would you phone up your friend and say, you know the way you got your car fixed recently? Why don't you tell me how to do it? Well, I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. Or imagine there's a really, really cheap mechanic and he's just on the road. He's right there in your local area and he's, you know, a tenth of the price of a normal mechanic, someone who actually will do a good job. Would you do that? No, because they'll break your car. They don't know what they're doing. It's probably going to cost you more than actually going to a good mechanic. Again, going to a cheap teacher in your local area, you're going to fail over and over and over and over again. And if you just went to an expert in the first place, then you would get the score that you need. So hope that you see what I'm talking about here. So the thing that you need to do, the second thing you need to do is Go to an expert, someone who actually knows what they are doing, and diagnose your actual problem. If you had a problem with your health, you would go to a doctor. If you had a problem with your tooth, you would go to a dentist. If you have a problem with your IELTS test, your IELTS scores, take it to a reputable, good teacher. Someone who has a track record of getting scores. Someone who has a track record of actually looking after students and helping students. And they're going to diagnose your problem. And if you don't believe me, if you don't think that that's a good idea, then ask yourself, how does this apply to any other area of life? You wouldn't try and diagnose your own health problems or fix your own car. Why would you try and fix your own writing, speaking, listening, or reading? So the third thing is action. So imagine that we know where we're going, we focused on the route, we've got our car fixed, it's totally perfect. How are we going to get to Manchester? We actually need to put our foot on the gas and just go. But imagine I get into the car and I just press the gas and go in first gear as quickly as I can. That's going to wreck the engine. You need to know how to actually drive a car, and there is a system to driving a car. You know, get in, put your seatbelt on, check your mirrors, put the key in, turn the key, put it in gear, use the clutch, use the accelerator, how to use the brake. There's systems that you need to know, you need to be aware of, and you need to perfect before you're able to actually drive that car efficiently. Imagine I was in the car with you and I said, well, I have no idea actually how to drive the car. Let's just go, let's just try and do it. You're probably going to die. You're definitely not going to get to your destination. Action is very, very, very important, but you must take action within a proven system, a system that actually works. So we had this problem with a student recently, Priyanka. You can go online and look at her video on how she went from band 6.5 to a band 8 in reading. One of the things that she said when she first started working with us was, I've done every practice test. How are my reading results not improving? I've done every single test. I said, well, if you got a car and just drove it around a field 100 times, would you become a better driver? No. Like, okay, you need to learn a system. You actually need to learn how to answer each of these questions, improve your reading skills, improve your vocabulary, understand exactly what you need to do. Just doing lots of practice is not going to help you. She's like, oh, okay, right. Can you show me some strategies? So I showed her each strategy for all the different types of question. She looked at it once. She did a practice test. Her scores didn't improve. She said, your strategy doesn't work. Like, it does work, but you've just looked at it once and applied it once. You haven't mastered that strategy. It takes time. You need to really understand exactly what to do, practice it, repetition, and then once you master that strategy, your scores are going to improve. Then she did it again and her scores improved a little bit, but she kept getting a little bit below to where she needed to be, which is a band 8. She's like, where am I going wrong? It's like, well, now you need to look at your wrong answers, think deeply about why you made each of those mistakes, and then you're going to get the score that you need, because you're going to understand exactly which mistakes you're making, and then you can focus on improving those areas. And when she did that, she figured out that her main problem was spelling, and all she needed to do was fix her spelling, focus on that area, and her scores increased dramatically. So just driving the car around and around and around and around in first gear is going to destroy your engine. But taking a systematic, strategic approach to taking action, driving the car properly, is going to get you to your destination. So the third thing is take action, but do take action. Take that action within a system. So focus on the important things, ignore everything else. Find out what your problems are. Everyone is different. You need to understand what your specific areas of weakness are. Take action in order to turn those weaknesses into strength, and make sure you're doing it within a proven system. And the fourth thing is, again, this is the last part of this analogy, you need feedback. While you're driving along the road, you're going to see lots of signs giving you feedback, telling you, Manchester's in 90 miles, 80 miles, 70 miles, 60 miles. All that's feedback telling you you're going the right way. There's other signs telling you to slow down. There might be a diversion. There might be a lot of traffic up ahead. They're all giving you feedback telling you whether you are getting to your destination. So as you're driving along, trying to get from London to Manchester, trying to go from 6.5, let's say, to a band 8, it's going to be lots of little signs telling you whether you are on the right track or not. That's exactly the same way that you need to approach your IELTS preparation. You need someone telling you where you're going right, where you're going wrong. And this is the last part of the feedback loop. So focus on what you need to do, find out where you're going wrong, take action, and as you're taking action within that system, get feedback on where you're going wrong. And many people will say, Chris, you're just saying this so that we will join your course. This is not trying to sell you anything. Maybe 100,000 people are going to watch this video. I only work with a really, really small number of people. I only work with a handful of people a month. I'm not saying this because I want you to give me your money. I'm saying this because I'm trying to save you a huge amount of wasted time, energy, and money. If you don't use this system, like let's say you do the opposite. Let's say you focus on things that do not matter. You don't find out what your weaknesses are. You take no action and you don't get any feedback. You're going to fail. You're going to waste a huge amount of time, energy, and most importantly, money. How much does the IELTS test cost in your country? How much does a teacher that doesn't actually help you cost? How much does, those months or maybe even years that you are not in the job that you deserve, how much is that actually costing you? So it might seem pretty costly to go and find a teacher to actually help you to do what you need to do, but they're going to save you a huge time. It's one of the best investments you can ever make. And investing in education is one of the best investments you will ever make. So if you want more information on any of the things that I spoke about today, so we have all of our testimonials here from all of our successful students. You can get that on IELTSadvantage.com. And what you'll notice is if you look at a few of these, all of them basically said, I wasn't focused, had no idea what my weaknesses were, I wasn't taking any effective action, and I wasn't getting any feedback. And once I started doing those things, then everything became much clearer and my scores increased dramatically. Thank you very much, guys. Hope that you enjoyed that. And if you need anything, feel free to get in touch with us. You'll find all my contact details on the main website, which is IELTSadvantage.com. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.